So, when I say the words hound dog, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's Elvis, right? But what if I told you the story we all think we know about that song? Well, it's way more complex, way more controversial, and honestly, just way more interesting. All right, let's get into it. See, this wasn't just a song, no way. When it hit the big time, it basically became a cultural flashpoint. I mean, it kicked off this massive debate that says so much about what was going on in America back in the 50s. And for most of us, that story starts with the scandal, the one that basically launched Elvis into superstardom and made him look like public enemy #1 to the establishment. So picture this. It's the summer of '56. The whole uproar over Hound Dog. It had almost nothing to do with the lyrics. Nope. It was all about the performance, the raw energy, that swagger, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Those now famous hip movements. And what's fascinating is how television was both the rocket ship and the cage. First, you get this raw, explosive performance on the Milton Berle Show that just sets the country on fire. So what happens next? The Steve Allen Show tries to, domesticate him, make it all a big joke by having him sing to a literal basset hound. And then the big one, the Ed Sullivan Show. They famously decided the only way to keep America safe was to film him from the waist up. Incredible. Okay, so that story, Elvis the Rebel, shaking up a whole nation, that's the one we've all heard a million times. But here's the thing, that's not where the story begins. Not even close. If you really want to understand Hound Dog, you gotta hit the rewind button. We're going back 4 years. Back before the TV scandals, before the screaming fans, even before Elvis himself ever sang a single note of it. Okay, check this out. The song was actually written way back in 1952 by the absolute legends Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller. But, and this is the key part, they wrote it for one person, the incredible blues singer, Big Mama Thornton. And she's the one who recorded the powerful original version. It was a huge R&B hit, a whole 4 years before Elvis ever laid a track down. And just so we're all on the same page about what an original recording is, this was not some rough demo, okay? It wasn't a first draft. Big Mama Thornton's version was the song. It was the real deal, the first time anyone on earth heard Hound Dog, and it set the tone for what the song was really all about. So you have to understand, when the song travels from Big Mama Thornton to Elvis, it's not just a cover, it's a total transformation. I mean, look at the difference here. In Thornton's hands, Hound Dog is this fierce, gritty takedown of a useless man, a freeloader. Her performance is just raw, grown-up power. But Elvis's version, he actually used different lyrics from another group's cover, and it completely changes the vibe. It goes from being this personal, cutting insult to more of a fun, high-energy taunt, a completely different beast. And this really gets to the heart of it. The meaning of a song, especially a rock song, isn't just in the lyrics on the page, right? It's all about the persona, the character, the vibe the singer puts out there. In rock and roll, sometimes attitude is literally everything. So let's break down the mechanics here. Think about it. Repeating, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog," over and over. That's not giving you new info. It's building pressure. It's driving the point home. Then you add that rhythm, that pulse. It makes the song feel physical, And Elvis's vocal delivery, that sharp attack, the speed, the breathlessness, it takes what was once contempt and turns it into this massive, swaggering spectacle. Okay, so if Thornton's original was so powerful, why is Elvis's version the one that's basically burned into our brains? Well, it wasn't just about who had the better performance. It was about the machine behind them. Yeah, this is really the big question, isn't it? How does one amazing version of a song become the version, a global memory, while another, equally brilliant original, gets pushed to the side for decades? Well, the answer really comes down to the industry machine back then. For starters, the music world was super segregated by race. Big Mama Thornton, a huge star in the R&B charts, for sure, but that was a separate market with a smaller reach. Elvis, on the other hand, was on RCA, a mega label with the money and power to get his record into every store and onto every radio station. Then you throw in the game-changing power of national TV and the pop charts, which basically stamped a song as official, and yeah, the whole system was just built to make his version explode. And there's a name for this process. It's called a crossover. That's when a song jumps the fence from its original market, whether that's R&B or country or whatever, and hits the mainstream. And with Hound Dog, Elvis's version wasn't just a crossover, it was a cultural tidal wave. But here's the cool thing. History isn't static. It's not set in stone. And over the last few decades, there's been a real conscious effort to tell the whole story of Hound Dog. What we're seeing now is a kind of course correction, a recentering of the narrative. The big institutions that basically act as our cultural memory banks, we're talking museums, archives, award ceremonies, they're actively working to put Big Mama Thornton back where she belongs, right at the start of the story. And this isn't just, some academic debate. There's real, concrete proof. Her original recording, it's now preserved in the Library of Congress. It's been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and get this, just in 2024, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame finally honored her as a key musical influence. The story is literally being rewritten. This all comes back to this big idea of cultural memory. The simple, shorthand stories we all tell ourselves about the past. But the thing is, those stories can change. As we learn more, as our perspectives shift, we can go back and make those stories richer and more accurate. So why should you care about all this? What's the big takeaway? Well, it's not just about giving credit for one song. It's about seeing a much bigger fundamental pattern in the history of pop music. It shows us that so much of rock and roll's DNA, its very foundation, came from the creative labor of Black musicians. That music was then often, let's say, translated and repackaged for a mass white audience. And when you understand the whole messy, fascinating story of Hound Dog, it makes you ask a much bigger question. How do we decide which version of a story becomes history? It shows that history isn't always just about what happened. It's also about power, the commercial power, the cultural power, that amplifies one voice and silences another. And it really makes you stop and think, what other stories that we all think we know are just the ones that had the biggest microphone?